This is another one that needs a little bit of extra work on it, and so we'll get started here in a minute. It's actually not terrible in that all these marks are easily fixed. So it could be a lot worse. There's not a lot of retouching on the face or things that I can't fix fairly easily. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is use the crop tool, and this looks a little crooked, so I'm going to try to straighten it a little bit. And I'll crop in, I'll come in here and try to crop in. I might come in this way a little bit because I'll leave it like that. And then I'll make sure I'll size it and reduce the resolution a little bit because I scan these in fairly high, so I don't want to cause too much trouble with this. So I'll also adjust this a little bit. And I'm making a stamp visible because some tools I can't do if it's not on a compressed layer. So let's get started on this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of dust removal. I got to be careful with that because it takes away minor dust, but it also can distort some of the rest of the image. So I'll really take time to make sure that I'm not doing that. And this actually looks pretty good. Now I'm going to be using the remove tool. And this is actually, if I had to choose between the remove tool and the generative fill tool, that would be hard because I love them both, but I do use this tool a lot. And I want to show you how it works really great on cleaning up background areas that are kind of not consistent. So it worked on the whole area. It didn't work that great. So I'll start on a smaller area first. We just start on a smaller area and just do that. That worked a lot better. So if I just work on small areas, I can get them cleaned up quickly but more evenly. It really is such a great tool. I love it more than its predecessor, the healing brush. I like it more than the healing brush. I use it, actually I don't use the healing brush much at all anymore. It's just not, to me it's just not that useful. This is much better. And I'll just go in here, cleaning up small areas at a time. When it's more intricate like this, using the tool on a bigger area is not always so good because you're distorting too much stuff and it's too intricate. There's details in here I don't want to distort. So just kind of go in here slowly. And sometimes you have to reduce the size of the brush so that you're not affecting too much of the area that you don't want. So you get a finer brush, you can really get into some detail that you don't want to mess up in a larger sense. For example, if she had blemishes on her face close to an eye, I'd get really small with a brush, and that would really help clean up the spot without distorting anything. I find like on longer stretches like this, it's better to go as far out as you can. So I removed the whole area there. This is a little tricky here. Oh, worked pretty good. I'm pleased with that. So when I like to go the whole length of it, the damaged area if I can. Just such a wonderful tool. This isn't, it hasn't been around that long, so, you know, if you can imagine just in this short period of time how much of an advancement this is. And I'd like to zoom in a little bit because I'm fairly particular and I want to clean up everything that I can. Even though it's not really visible to the naked eye, I want to really make sure I get in there and get everything cleaned up that I can. It's like magic. The bad stuff just goes away. See how quickly you can clean up an area. Now I'm going to zoom out, take a look at this. You can see already, look at all that's cleaned up. It's quite a bit. Quite a bit of the area cleared up. Over here I'm undecided about what I want to do on the right side here, because this is the edge right here along this line. That's the edge of the backdrop. And I could have cropped in further, but I wanted to keep as much of her veil as possible. So I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I could expand this out so that this appears. And I might take a stab at that at the last minute, but for now, I'm going to leave it as it is. Now, because sometimes things, even though they're in the picture, they don't add anything. So if it doesn't add anything, and it kind of detracts from the overall picture, I would take it out. Because actually, I'm sure that they cropped tight into this couple, and that wasn't part of their photograph. If you zoom in, you can see more of the scratches. You don't see it when you zoom out. When it's like this, there's a lot. I will sometimes, oh, there's a lot. There's a lot you don't see when you're zoomed out. But when there's a lot of stuff like this, I'll go to other tools and I will make a stamp visible again because I'm going to go into the neural filters and I'm going to use a tool there that's called, it's a restorative tool, photo restoration tool. It's a photo restoration tool, and you can do multiple things at one time, or in this case, I'm just going to ask it to reduce the scratches. So let's see how it does. It's working. You can see the progress here on the bottom. Okay, so let's see what it did here. Okay. Not bad, not bad. But the problem with it is it can also take away things you don't want. For example, you see this? It took away from the ribbon. So what I'll do is I'll mask it out and then come in with my brush and use it on areas that are fairly open, and I can have good results with that. For example, the background, there's nothing really there, but it's actually very helpful to clean up the background, so I'll do that. See how it got a little more than I wanted over here, so I'll just go back with that, fine tune it. This was in worse condition than I thought, actually. When you zoom in on it, you see, oh my gosh, all this stuff. You see how it took away those scratches? And I can come in here with a finer brush and remove the scratches that are in his hair. Kind of fine tune it a little bit. And then use the bigger brush on larger areas. Some marks here. Yeah, oh, this is much worse than I thought it really was. It's primarily bad over his suit jacket. Well, maybe it's just because it's black and you can see things more when it's black, but this is a mess. This is a very elaborate wedding dress. Actually, of the ones in this collection, this is probably the nicest one. This is probably definitely the nicest one I've seen. I'd have to take a look at a few others, but this one's pretty elaborate. You can see, and I'm not going to mess with the veil. You can see the intricate parts of the veil. So now that I've done that, I'm going to do another stamp visible, and I'm going to save, because you don't want to do a lot of work and then not have it saved. So I'm going to go back to cleaning up with the remove tool. Actually, I'm going to make it smaller because I'm in some intricate areas here, so I'll make it a little smaller. And I'll touch up a little bit on her face, but I will use another tool to enhance her face as well. She's got some retouching, as does he. You see this retouching. It's not bad though. It's not the worst I've ever seen. This is where that healing, or this is where the remove tool does really good on large areas. You see how it's modeled here? This can really clean up a big area in no time. So I like to use it on big areas like this. It might be a mole, but I'll get rid of it anyway. You see how that worked right there? It worked super well. Just if you make a circle with this tool, watch what I do. You make a circle, anything within the circle gets fixed. And so it's nice feature of that tool that you can do that. It comes in handy quite a bit. Yeah, there's a lot of scratches on here. This one's taking me actually longer than I thought because of all the dust, or I don't know if it's dust, but it's really it's a lot of specks all over here that are problematic. I thought I would have more trouble with the last one that I did, but it turned out to be a little easier than this one. Slow but steady. If you don't make that complete circle, it won't work. So you got to make sure you do the complete circle. A lot of tedious cleanup here. You know, this is from the collection that was gifted to me, and there were 120 negatives in this collection, and most were remarkably clean and in super condition. Honestly, most of them were minimal work, which is unusual. They were going to be thrown away, so these were saved by a follower's son, and the fact that they're in such good condition is kind of remarkable, actually, because they were just in an old building that was going to be torn down. So very fortuitous that this young man had the sense to salvage these. The woman that gave them to me was in Houston, is in Houston, and so it's likely, that they came from Houston. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a good possibility, because sometimes people buy them, like myself. I live in Savannah, but I buy negatives from all over the place, so I'm not 100% sure, but there's a possibility. And they range from, there's a few that are late 1800s, most are early 1900s, I would say. But there are some that are definitely 1910, maybe even 1920. So let me just take a look. I'm going to do close up here, and then I'll zoom out to get a better idea of, some of these areas you can't see unless you're close up, and then also when you zoom back out, you can see things as well that you didn't see initially. So I'm just doing, some of it is more than what needs to be done. I just kind of, because no one's ever going to zoom in on this like this. Okay, I'm going to do one last, I'm not going to say I'm going to do one last, I'm going to do another stamp visible, and the reason being is I just did I have some things preset, and so I just have to click a button, and one of them was a dust and scratch. You can see what I'm doing here. It's great on the background to, it's, in essence what it's doing is blurring the image, but it really gets rid of a lot of those superficial scratches and marks. And it's great on the background because, like I said, it's kind of muted out anyway, and it just helps to get rid of, and evens out. It evens things out too. That's what I like about it too. But I won't use it on some things. I'll use it on the background, because you can see it does blur out some of the area. So I won't use it everywhere, but I definitely like it on the background or any area, like solid areas that, like his pants, for example. And I'm doing this on a mask, and I can see what areas I'm hitting and which I'm not. If it's red, it's masked out so that whatever I did is not affecting those areas. So I'll know where I need to hit. And that's very helpful because sometimes you can't tell. So I'll just get some of this area in here. And I'll leave the detailed areas alone. And we're doing pretty good here. I'm just gonna put these in a group and I'll just show you. This is where we started. This is where we are right now. That's pretty good, actually. Pretty pleased with that. So again, that's where we started. That's where we are now. And so now I'm going to do a stamp visible. And I'm going into the neural filters. And again, I used this previously on scratches. I'm not going to do it on scratches. I'm going to do it on the photo enhancement and enhance the face. So it'll fix the face up a little bit. And the beauty of masks is that if you don't like what you did, if you think it's too much, you can do one of two things. Okay, so this is the result of that. So this is the before and this is the after. I can lower my opacity a little bit, which I just did, so it's not as severe. And that's a nice result. And then I have one last thing that I will do to enhance the photo before I add the sepia and the watermark. And so this is a filter that's a enhancement filter that I've had presets on, and so I made an action, and so all I got to do is click a button and it does what I want it to do. If I feel like that's too much, I can add a mask and I can just select what areas I want to have that effect on. And really, in this case, I really want it just on them. Might be too much. This is, again, this is without, that's the full filter, which is actually not terrible. And so I might actually go with that. Because I like that. I may lower it a tad so it's not as severe. And then I have some, I'm big on having things preset, automatic. It saves so much time, and in this case I have a set of layers that are preset. So all I have to do, in this case, I just drag that over. It puts a sepia on it. I sometimes like to change the contrast when I have the sepia on it because it looks different when the sepia is on it, and I don't want to do it beforehand because I want to adjust it at the same time. Also, I did this already before I started this, but with whites, when you scan it, it can be, you try to get as much as you can on the scan, and sometimes the whites are really blown out, so I will make adjustments just on those areas specifically, and I've already done that like at the beginning, so I can't and I can't really show you it now, but I had to do that with her dress. It was kind of blown out, so to bring back some of the detail, I used the brightness and contrast adjustment layer, and I just did it on the areas that needed it. So in any case, this is the final product. I always add my watermark on here, and people wonder why I do that. I do it because I did a lot of work. As you just saw, I did a lot of work. First of all, most cases I pay for these negatives, so there's that. And then I do a lot of work on them, And so that's my watermark, and that is to help protect the expense and effort that I put into it. So when I know of the photographer, I will always mention it. If I don't know the photographer, I'll also just indicate that the photographer is unknown. So in any case, I hope this was a helpful journey for you, and we can see this is the beginning. This is the beginning here. This is where it all started, and this is the final product. So big improvement from beginning to end. I hope you agree.